Okay, and now welcome back to part 2 of drawing our Aranyi landscapes. This is where we left off, so we should have our mountains finished now before moving on to the next step. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to this ground area down here. And the main thing we're going to be adding is some trees. We'll put some trees there, but you will have a chance to add a few more items if you'd like to. Okay, so let's just start off with some trees. Now the magic number here is going to be the number 5. You need to have at least 5 trees, but you can certainly add more if you would like to or if you have room to, okay? Now, with landscape, something we need to think about is space, okay? So I'm not talking about outer space, I'm talking about space as in the distance that things are from each other. So if I am standing right up next to a tree, that tree is really, really big, right? And then if I have another tree that's really far away, that tree is gonna look really small to me. So in our picture here, in our landscape, any tree that is really close to the front of our picture is going to be bigger than a tree that's way back here by the mountains. So you need to keep that in mind. Your trees should make sense based on where they are. So if it's close up, it should be big. If it is further away, it should be small, okay? So first thing we're gonna do, we are going to mark where our trees are going to go with some lines. So if I want a tree that is really close up, I'm going to make a really tall line. So maybe I want a tree that's gonna be right up here in the front of my picture. So I'm gonna make a line. That's going to represent tree number 1 for me, okay? Now, if I want a tree that is maybe attached to this line right here, it is going to be smaller than this tree, but if I want a little baby tree way back here, way in the background, this one should be the smallest because it's the furthest away. Does that make sense so far? So this tree is closest to me, so it's biggest. This one is like a medium distance away from me, so it's medium sized. This one's furthest, so it is small. Well, let's do maybe one more small tree here. And maybe a kind of medium tree, but it has to be bigger than this one because it's closer. Right there, okay? There's my 5 trees. I'm gonna start with 5, maybe I'll add more later, okay? Now to make some trees, we are going to be making some lines. I'm gonna zoom us in here. Oop, we went too far. What is happening? Okay, there we go. So let's do a little baby tree right here first, okay? We're gonna be making some lines, and these lines kind of are gonna look like scribbles, and that's totally fine, okay? Now, to make a tree, we want it to be triangle shaped. No tree is straight up and down that's grown in the wild. Sometimes they're cut naturally or cut like that, but they don't happen naturally. So this tree is growing in the wild, right? Because we have mountains and this is a landscape. So your trees need to be triangle shaped. That means they should not be straight up and down like a pencil. So when you make your tree, we're gonna use some lines going out and up. As it goes down, it should go at an angle. So do you see how these lines here are longer than the ones on top? I'll show you on this side. These are short lines. As I go down, whoop, my lines are getting longer. And then I can make it thicker by adding more lines, okay? To make this go a little bit faster, instead of just making little lines like this, you could also scribble. So maybe you want to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth like this. But notice how at the bottom of the tree, my lines got bigger to show that it is wider at the bottom, because trees are wider at the bottom, okay? Now for the big trees, same thing. We're gonna have lines that go up, and as we go out, see how it is starting to get wide at the bottom? Sometimes what I like to do to keep my trees from getting too wide is I will start adding some lines here at the bottom, so I know I kind of have it as a guide so that I know I'm not gonna get too wide, and then I'll just kind of scribble to fill it in. Okay, so there's one side of that tree. I'm gonna repeat that now on the other side. okay? And then there's that one. So I'm gonna zoom out just a little bit here so you can kind of see what's happening. So close up, of course it looks like scribbles, of course it looks like lines, but you can see from far away that these look like little pine trees in the distance. If you're noticing maybe a little bit of gapping in your trees where you can see through them too much, go ahead with that Sharpie. Just kind of color that in to make it as dark as you want it to be. Okay. So you're gonna repeat those same steps to finish up all of your trees. And then once you have that done, if there are any other details that you would like to add to the bottom part of your landscape, you may do that. So that could be a log cabin, some animals, a pond, okay, some texture of the snow. Maybe you want it to look like it's windy outside. It is entirely up to you. However, the only rule is that whatever you add to your landscape has to go down here on the bottom. You cannot add anything to your sky because remember, that is going to be painted. So you can't add anything to your sky, but whatever else you want on the bottom, go ahead and do that now once you finish up your trees.